In South Africa, stocks and currency down in the wake of Donald Trump's threat to suspend aid over land reform policy. President Cyril Ramaphosa rejecting his U.S. counterpart's assertion that South Africa's government was, quote, confiscating land. Many there wonder if South African-born billionaire Elon Musk may be whispering in Trump's ear. Musk, who in the past has expressed nostalgia for the apartheid era. Charlie James has more.
It all started on Sunday with this statement from Donald Trump.
Terrible things are happening in South Africa. They're taking away land, they're confiscating land, and actually they're doing things that are perhaps far worse than that.
The U.S. president offered no proof of his claim, but threatened to cut off all funding to South Africa. Trump appeared to be reacting to a land expropriation law enacted last month by South African President Cyril Ramaphosa, one that makes it easier for the state to seize land in the public interest. The new law aims to address the gaping land ownership disparity in South Africa, a result of decades of white minority rule under apartheid. White people make up around 8% of South Africa's population, but own 3/4 of the nation's freehold farmland. In response to Trump, Ramaphosa said the South African government has not confiscated any land and that he looks forward to clarifying the land reform policy with Washington. South Africa's mineral resources minister had a tougher reaction.
And they said, let's not mobilize Africa. Let's withhold minerals to U.S. That is it. If they don't give us money, let's not give them minerals.
Trump's interest in this issue may be coming from one of his closest allies.
Take over, Elon!
Elon Musk, who was born in South Africa. The world's richest man has also attacked Pretoria, accusing his homeland of allowing a genocide against white farmers. Trump's threat is already impacting South Africa's economy. The nation's currency, stocks, and government bonds all weakened on Monday.
Well, for more, let's turn to Philip van Niekerk. He's a former editor of South Africa's Mail and Guardian newspaper, editorial director of Scrolla Africa. Thank you for joining us from Washington.
Hi there.
Are you surprised by this announcement by Donald Trump that we heard in that report?
Well, I'm not surprised by it, but it is a sort of a very bad example of how to make friends and how to alienate your friends and please your enemies, because the substance of what Trump seemed to be saying was, absolute nonsense. Frankly, I mean, there has been no confiscation, and I have no idea, what the far worse is that he's referring to. And this sort of attack came out of the blue. South Africa has been trying very hard to mend its fences with the United States. Nothing has really happened to change anything in the past little while. I mean, South Africa has a constitution. Under Section 25, property rights are protected. And yes, so legislation was passed, which does not mean there's going to be wholesale expropriation. But I mean, you've got to remember some context here that South Africa had centuries of dispossession of black people's land, and very little has been done since 1994. There's been some land reform, but actually to rectify that situation. And there's nothing illegal or invalid or unconstitutional about what South Africa is trying to do, and certainly nothing imminent that might have sparked this crazy attack from Trump. And I think that, by the way, that the South African president handled it in a very calm and a very measured way. He was, very, much more diplomatic than the initial attack.
Because Cyril Ramaphosa's ANC and some of its coalition partners don't always see eye to eye on this issue, but here there seems to be a moment of national unity.
Well, yeah, because it seems like, well, actually there are, I would say, a group of white people on the right who would sympathize with Trump, but they're a tiny minority. I think the vast majority of South Africans across the board, including the opposition with the Democratic Alliance, which is now in the government of national unity with the ANC, who feel that this is a mistaken, it's a wrong attack because it's not based on fact, and it's a completely unnecessary attack from a country that is supposed to be an ally or a friend of South Africa.
Yes, and everybody, of course, wondering, is this Elon Musk, South African born, whispering into Donald Trump's ear?
It's probably right. Musk has also had issues with the South African government because there have been problems with his attempts to bring Starlink to South Africa, and there are issues there because South Africa does mandate a certain percentage of black ownership in local companies. But Musk has also kind of been posting wild stuff about white genocide, and he was very quick on his X today to be out there, bashing Ramaphosa for racism in response to his very calm and collected statement. And so, Musk obviously has a lot of influence. And I ask myself, apart from anything else, there's not a lot of aid that the United States gives South Africa. There is a lot of investment from the United States, from American companies. But the one thing that has already been paused and already caused a lot of havoc is PEPFAR, which is the initiative against HIV. And what was interesting is that Bill Gates, who's been a big advocate of the treatment of treatment of HIV victims, went to see Trump on the 27th at Mar-a-Lago and said to him, look, this is not going to go on forever. What we're working towards a vaccine for HIV/AIDS, but we need still to bridge. We need a little bit of time. There are millions and millions of Africans, who are dependent upon this medication for treatment of HIV. And Trump according to Gates, seemed enthused and also seemed to agree. Now, between then and about 3 weeks later, when suddenly PEPFAR was put on pause, it was one of the first programs, first US programs to actually be stopped. Somebody had got to Trump, and I suspect that somebody was Musk. Somebody who was telling Trump, well, the lives of these black Africans are worth nothing.
Philip, one final question for you, because we've spent the last 4 years watching the way, when it comes to bilateral relations, the U.S. trying to drive a wedge between South Africa and members of the BRICS who are on the other side of the fence when it comes to the war in Ukraine, talking about China and Russia. What happens now when it comes to South Africa's foreign policy if the Trump administration continues down this path?
Well, I think the problem for the United States is that you're driving South Africa, you're driving other countries in the global south into the arms of China. South Africa's kind of made it very clear that they're a non-aligned country. India is non-aligned. India has relations with China. India has relations with the United States. Brazil has relations with China. Brazil has relations with the United States. South Africa sees itself in that bracket. South Africa is part of BRICS, but it's inherently part of the global Western economy and has an enormous number of American companies that are invested in South Africa. So this kind of unnecessary picking apart of a relationship, which is, serves both. I mean, South Africa, provides a lot of goods to the United States as well as critical minerals. So, it's just kind of unnecessary. It sort of boggles the mind why Trump or the United States would want to do this right now, because it doesn't make any sense geopolitically anyway.
Philip van Niekerk, many thanks for speaking with us from Washington.
Thank you.